Ladies and gentlemen, the rest of our guests have arrived. And Mr. Bob Carr, the co-chair of the convention, will be introducing them momentarily. So if you could all take your seats, please. And if we're very nice to Tabitha, perhaps she'll be kind enough to let us do photos after or before the VA panel later on tonight. We'll see. And if our wonderful volunteers who are passing out index cards could please continue doing so. And for those who have just joined us and don't understand the index cards, it's very, very straightforward. If you have a question for any of our wonderful guests, all you need do is take the golf pencil, write down your question on the index card and wave it in the air. One of the volunteers will come around and collect the index card, bring them up to me, I'll be shuffling them round, and we will eventually get to ask it. Very straightforward. And now, ladies and gentlemen, co-chair of Nightmare Nights Dallas, Mr. Bob Carr.
Look at me.
That was kind of a lukewarm response. I suppose everyone's confused by my young Fidel look. Need some aviators and an olive drab hat. I can take over Cuba. All right. So, for those of you who missed opening ceremonies, are only used to laughing at their work and don't know the faces behind it, we have, occupied with his phone on the far end of the table, Mr. Josh Haber. Would you please remind the audience which episodes you wrote in season 4?
Sure. There was the one with the castle.
Yeah, something about a castle, right?
The one with Rarity and Trenderhook.
Right, something like that.
And then the one with Granny Smith and the Fun Flammers.
That's, all right.
Those 3.
Yes. It's been so long.
No idea.
All right. Another author. We have Natasha Levinger. Oh, I'm putting you through the same routine.
Okay. Pinky apple pie and the breeze.
This is starting to feel like the author's gong show. It's great. And as our time for our panel is limited, I will not make her list every episode she's written. Amy Keating Rogers.
So what should I say? What should I talk about then? Oh, is my book for sale? Oh, it is? Yay! My book's for sale. Okay, Journal of the Two Sisters. Buy it. That's what I should say.
Excellent. I'm so sorry I saved all my shilling for Mitch and our next guest.
Yeah, I see how it works.
I do apologize profusely.
Buy Amy's book.
Thank you. Now, what percentage do you get for that? That's how it works. That's marketing. Next up, author of a wonderful series involving the main 6, and more recently Daring Do, G.M. Barrow. Next up, an IDW comic writer. She wrote the Nightmare Rarity arc. Heather Newford. Buy her books. I sense a theme. Have you published anything yet, Dusty?
Actually, I had comic work in 1995. That's true.
Buy his remaindered book.
Over in the corner boxes.
Can I have to ask, believe it or not, while it does sit well on that head, That's Full-Paper's new Stetson. So how did you get that from him?
He traded me for it.
Yes, I traded it for it.
Yeah.
Stetson back.
It looks better on him, actually.
Ooh. Wow.
Pass it down, pass it down.
That's not cruel, it's candid.
I think it looks better.
All right, thanks, Doctor. We have the world's manliest brony. I'm playing for second. Dusty Cat. And if you don't already listen to Stay Brony, my friends, you should.
Yes. Yes, look for Stay Brony, my friends, on YouTube. You'll find 88 episodes, hour and a half, where I interview most of these people up here, except for one person who I'm looking at the end of the table. Yeah.
Did you interview me
Is-
ever?
No, you guys.
Is now really the time?
Well,
I don't count. I don't count. They're one person.
A pause while we arrange a schedule. To Dusty's left, you guys have all seen her work online. She sews incredible custom plushes. We have from White Dove Creations, Ms. Sherry Berlant. You like the from White Dove Creations, like you're the head of a vast plush empire? All right. Next at the table, we have, I can't even list all the voices you do. You are the Hank Azaria of My Little Pony, right? Every third pony. The lovely, the talented Tabitha St. Germain. Last, and if you believe Full-Paper's least. Oh wait, I have to introduce him too. Oh, never mind. So last and next to least, we have author and now lead story editor for the first half of season 5, Mitch M.A. Larson.
Howdy. You guys hear that? Everybody hear that?
No, that really is Shatner. And at my right, and wondering when I'm going to hand him his microphone back, moderator for life, rockin' tour, tweet wearer. You know him on Twitter as Full-Papers. Oh, I guess they don't.
I do.
That's at Full-Papers.
Yes.
You can, in fact, get a graduate degree from a prestigious English university by analyzing classical reception in My Little Pony. It's a fact.
My parents are so proud, you have no idea.
you know what? I think for the rest of this town, we call him Foley Ewing.
Foley Ewing?
Foley.
Nice. Dusty's old enough, I'm old enough, the rest of you are going, what? There was a show called Dallas back in the day. For those of you who are younger and have never seen it, don't bother. For the record, when he gets shot, it's all a dream.
Hey, Bob. Hey, Bob. Yo, Bob. Somebody just showed up down there.
I know.
Okay, just making sure.
How long do you think I've been stalling? I've been looking.
At least 30 seconds.
And fresh from the International House of Pancakes, the voice of Princess Cadence, Britt McKillop.
So, are those questions being collected? While they're being collected and brought up, I would like to start the panel by asking everyone, an oldie but a goodie, how did you first become involved with My Little Pony? And we'll start all the way at the end with Britt, if we may.
I'll try to speak louder. Well, I became involved with My Little Pony just the old-fashioned way. I auditioned for the part. a few years back, and they liked my voice, and then I was lucky enough to actually get to sing as well. So that was a great honor for me. So yeah, I've been involved for a few years now.
Did you know that Britt McKillop's mom calls her Stinkerbell?
Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. She's been calling me that since I was a baby. Curious to know how you know that.
I met her at the airport. It was a total coinky-dinky.
That's right. She told me that she ran into you at the airport. So.
I don't have an adorable nickname. Sorry. I became involved in the show by appealing to a friend of mine who worked at Hasbro, and he passed a sample of work of mine on to Megan, and she read it and met with me and hit it off. And she gave me a shot at writing an episode, and that was Castlemania, and then it was well received, and so I got more.
I guess it's not that similar. I met Megan and I submitted my stuff to her and she liked it. I met Megan. Josh finds this interesting. I don't think it is, but I'll tell you anyway. Our kids went to preschool together. Oh, okay, it's cute. It's cute. I don't know if it's interesting, but it's cute. And yeah, and then she eventually got the story editing job there, and she liked my stuff and gave me the job.
I worked with Lauren Faust on The Powerpuff Girls. Where she was a storyboard artist and I was the head writer of the show. And we became friends, and then we worked on Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends together. We were both writers. And at the wrap party for Foster's, which is the final party when you're done with the show, she said, "Hey, I'm pitching this new version of My Little Pony to Hasbro, and if I get a green light, I would love for you to write for the show." And I said, "Yeah." And so when it got a green light, she called me up, and me and Lauren, she'd already had the idea for the pilot, but even though you have an idea for something, you want to get people together to break the story, kind of figure out all the details. So she called me and this guy named Paul Rudish, who, if you look him up, he's really, really awesome. So me and Paul Rudish and Lauren got together and we broke the story for the pilot of the show. So that's how I got involved.
Well, I submitted my fan fiction. I had been working on a couple series ghostwriting, young adult and kids books, and my editor from a series that I did called me up one day and said, "We just signed a big deal to do a bunch of pony books, and I wanted to know if you were interested." And I said yes. My microphone cord's really short. Oh, strength and power. I had been told I needed to watch the show by numerous friends in the comic book industry. And so I did, and instantly I was like, why is this not a comic book? This would be a freaking awesome comic book. So I went through my imaginary Rolodex and I just started emailing every editor I knew, like, hey, if you get the license for this, I am writing it. There's nothing else you can do. And eventually it worked. They brought me on, so I asked a lot, and it worked.
Hi guys. I was introduced to the series in fall of 2010 by some friends of mine when I was in a very deep depression. And it basically pulled me back out. And I was sort of living alone living in a different state, at a job I hated, and the show basically told me that it's my own decisions and what I do. And my friends are there for me. And my friends were saying, come back, we'll find you something. And I did. I came back and lived on a couch for about a month before I found a good job, and it all worked out. And that's basically how I started in the fandom, was my friends got me back into it. And I've always been an animation fan from Wide World of Disney in the 70s all the way back to Japanese animation in 1972. So just being an animation fan, a comic book and all that, it just spoke to me in ways that you couldn't believe. And that's why I do what I do to this day.
Yeah, well, I got involved in it through my son about toward the end of season 1, and I knew nothing about it. The only thing I knew about was My Little Pony of the 90s, and something I wasn't too crazy about. So I kind of got don't get me. I prefer the one today. But anyway, I kind of got involved in that, and when I found out my son was a brony, he, of course, his first thing he knew I sewed, and he asked for a plushie, which I had no idea how to make. And so before I would even attempt that, I told him I needed to find out more about the show. So he sent me all of season 1 episodes, which I marathoned, and just fell in love with them. they were great. And my panel is after this, and I'll go further into that about how I got started in this. So anyway, that's how I got started, was through my son.
I was in Outer Mongolia testing a new strain of yam. And I was captured by a warlord named Bing. And it was a sad occasion until we used to amuse ourselves by making puppets out of stones and sticks. And an executive from Hasbro happened to be flying by that day and saw our little puppet show. And I've become the mega star you see before you now.
It's really weird because that's exactly how I got involved. That's so weird. Those Hasbro executives love Mongolia. My real story is really boring, so let's just go with that.
Make something up, you're a writer.
I was Lauren modeled the character of Fluttershy off me.
We have a great question here from a child. Who is your favorite pony and why? I like that question. And we'll start with Mitch because he didn't give a good answer to the last question.
I'm not saying this because she's right here, but Rarity is my favorite. It's right
and
she
why?
Just she gets the best lines. I mean, it's just the nature of the character.
Stop! You have an hour and a half to just quit. My favorite character is Trixie. Today.
Well, I love Luna. I love to make Luna, but Rarity's my favorite.
Everybody knows I have Rainbow Dash tattooed to my arm, but my favorite pony is Cheerilee because we dated in high school.
I feel like I haven't heard that story. Rarity is my favorite because she's fun to write. And then some days it's Applejack, depending on my day.
My favorite is Pinkie Pie because she's really silly and she can do almost anything. So I think that's really fun to write. Is you can make her just like pull any prop out of thin air, and I think that's really funny. And she's just silly, and she loves parties.
I always always say Pinkie Pie because she's funny. And well, if you read the journal, the friendship part of the journal, there's half. It's half. Anyhow. I'm not doing a good job with this answer. Applejack. And you'll find out why in season 5.
Buy some apples.
This is like when my son asked me the other day which of the cats was my favorite. I did not answer that question. I said I love them all equally, and he pressed me on it, and that's how I feel in my heart. So I don't see why I should have to pick one. But if I determine I'm not going to agree.
That's funny because it's similar to when my daughter asked me whether I love her or her brother more. It's a very similar situation, and I have to tell her that I love her brother more. And it's awkward for a moment, but she gets it. I feel like she understands. Actually, my favorite character to write for is DJ Ponely because she doesn't talk. That's really the easiest one. After that, it's Rarity because she is also the easiest to write for. It's just something about that voice that's really specific and easy to do.
He has said that before, so he's the only one who's not saying that, just because Tabitha's here.
Mitch always says that
I've
too.
been on record. But I also do like Trixie too. Tabitha's here.
My favorite, absolutely Pinkie Pie. I love the energy in her voice. Can't beat it.
That would teach me to pay attention. I swear I was, but I was also selecting some good questions next. This one is for Tabitha. It's a slight variation on the last question, actually. Who is your favorite pony that you voice?
That I voiced. Well, now, it's very complicated. I don't want to get into the Sophie's choice of the whole thing, but sometimes people neglect their elders. And that's all I'm going to say. What, my chopped liver? Best pony. Praise be!
We've got a follow-up question there. What is your favourite thing to say as Granny Smith? So those two went perfectly together. Thank you to the two kids who submitted these.
My favorite thing to say is Granny Smith?
Yes.
All the things that she gets to say interstitially, as it were. And I like to say lines that are given to me because they're good. and I'm in no way pandering to the people with the imaginary power over the fate of my own character.
It's weird because that is the correct answer.